following program contains disturbing materials that may not be suitable for some resellers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Let's talk liquidation. Now, many of you guys know I've been buying liquidation recently, and actually over the last year and a half, I've been buying it kind of differently. I've been buying it piece by piece. I haven't really been buying pallets, and up until about, say, 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And I've gotten really excited about buying these pallets. And for the most part, pretty good stuff. But in this video, I want to tell you some things that you absolutely need to know before you go out and buy pallets to resell on eBay or Mercari, or if you're doing clothing pallets. I don't really do a whole lot of clothing pallets, but if you're going to do something like that for, Poshmark, guys, three things you need to know. Number one, now we've talked about, you can check out my other liquidation videos if you want, because I'm not going to really go into the differences here. But if you're dealing with manifested pallets, and the other flip side of that is unmanifested, the difference being no actual list of what you're getting in a nutshell. If you're dealing with a manifested pallet, you're probably going to have some missing items. Now, every company, every liquidator out there is a little different in their policy. Some have like a 3, 4, 5% ratio. If it's anything that's beyond that, like more items than say 3, 4, 5%, then they'll maybe do something for you as far as like a credit. You have to complain to them. And it's like pulling teeth, to be honest with you, in my previous experience. And with the companies that I've been dealing with, I don't really have a lot of that, but you got to know that you are going to be missing items from time to time. And the way it used to work in my experience is that in many cases, it was like the most expensive items on the manifest. And case in point, this happened like 4 years ago. A buddy of mine that was living in Vegas at the time wanted to get into reselling to supplement his retirement income, and saw what I was doing and said, hey, let's go in and halves on a pallet. So I was glad to kind of help him get started. So we went in there with him. We found a pallet that had a lot of very high-end electronic merchandise. And we're talking like limited edition PlayStations. We had 2 Xboxes. These are Xbox Ones at the time. Like 4 years ago, they're a little hotter than they are now, because we're dealing with like PlayStation 5s and Xbox One X's. But they still had good value. I think there was a receiver. There was a couple other things. There were 6 big ticket items in this pallet that we were hoping to get. And, there's other items that like toner and things like that. There were supplemental items that were fine, but we would not have bought this pallet if it wasn't for those big ticket items. And I think there's like 8 big ticket items. Once we got the pallet, we're going through it and we get to the end and we're like, and we have a checklist. We're actually going through the manifest. And 6 of the 8 big ticket items were missing. Now we still divvied everything up. There's still a good haul, in my opinion, for what we paid, but that kind of turned him off. He was really bothered by that, and reluctantly he took his half home. And within 2 weeks, actually I think 3 weeks, he was like, you know what, reselling isn't for me. This is just such a disappointment. And we worked something out. So that is one thing that can turn people off, is the idea that you are looking at a manifest, and some of these companies won't even guarantee an accurate manifest 100%. So, this whole 2, 3, 4, 5%, well, it could be 2 to 3 to 4 to 5% of the good stuff, and you're left holding the crumbs. So that is the first thing that you need to know about liquidation before you get out there and start buying it, okay? Make a test buy. Just putting it out there. How about this? Broken / nasty, just plain nasty items. So what happens is there's a couple different scenarios. Sometimes the buyers get the item, they use it, they misuse it, they break it, they damage it, they send it back, they open a return through Amazon. Now, I'm talking a lot about Amazon liquidation pallets, but this holds true with Walmart goods, Target pallets, pretty much any company that offers a customer returns experience you're going to deal with if you're dealing with these kind of pallets. And I've seen like CVS pallets that look just like this, broken, damaged stuff, or that people just take back and return. So buyers will utilize the, I think, 45-day Amazon return period, and they will beat the hell out of these items. And I ended up getting a Roomba S9 Plus, which is kind of top of the line for Roombas. I was excited to get it. Everything looked complete in the box. And guess what, guys? I've got two of these. It's a Roomba. I have two of them that I received in this pallet. And you know, with me in the past, these robot vacuums have been hit and miss. So I'm gonna crack open the first one, and I'm already concerned. Wow. Yeah, this is liquidation for you. I'll show you here in a minute. So essentially what you end up having is you have a base unit. As you can tell, this is quite used, and the thing that kind of initially puzzled me about liquidation is how can somebody, let's say, buy something from Amazon, and within the 45-day return window, I think it's 45 days unless Amazon changed it, return something so jacked up. And I'll tell you what I mean right now. Look at that. Look at that. It is nastiness. Oh, look at this. What do they do to the wheel? Like the wheel had its own party. Look at that. I mean, this thing is seen better days. That is absolutely disgusting. Now, I don't know if at all there's anything I can do here. I don't even want to really touch this. It doesn't get much worse than this. I mean, I guess it can, but it looks like they had a bunch of wet toilet paper and they just rolled this thing around, or it got, oh man. And I don't even want to ask what that is right there. Oh, and this is the fun part of liquidation. Now, what are you going to do with this? So now one thing's out. It doesn't have the bin. So someone kept the bin. There's nothing else in this box. This thing looks like it's in good condition. So I'm going to see, I mean, it does need to be cleaned. Take a look at that. A little bit of the wheel residue got on there. Surprisingly enough, the inside looks clean. Looks clean, right? For one of these bins, it looks clean. So I'm happy with that. Yeah. Now this is probably something I'm going to sit aside, but I am going to check here to see if this unit, so I have a place to plug this in right here. And the light comes on red. Now I don't even really want to touch this thing on here, but I guess it's for just to see if anything changes. Well, the light does come on, so it tells me it's functional. It needs the sensors need to be clean, so it's not picking up the vacuum. What I'm probably going to do here on this one, cringe, I'm probably going to try to clean this up a little bit. Clean worse. And I'm going to open this thing up and maybe take the battery unit. One wheel doesn't look that bad. So the wheel mechanism, they do sell. Or what I may just do is see parts or repair. Yeah, of course I'm going to still clean it up. It's disgusting, I know. Parts repair. I'm going to sell this bin here by itself. And I think my cost average on this is like $27. So I'm going to make money on the bin and the battery and maybe the wheel mechanism. That's if I don't want to get my hands dirty. And I don't know. What do you guys think of this? This is the kind of thing I think would turn most people off of liquidation altogether. And it isn't fun. But just nasty gunk on the bottom of this robot. And that's just one example. I mean, you see it all the time. Or broken stuff that just doesn't work. I don't know if they just threw like this electronics item in the water, fried the boards. Who knows what they're doing with these things? We're just assuming that the buyer is using the item for what it was meant for, but they could be using these items inappropriately, and then they break the item, they force a return on Amazon, it ends up in your liquidation pallet. When that happens, you're pretty much stuck with what I'm doing here. Stop making all this stuff fall. Look at this, guys. This is a Shark robot vacuum. Okay. Now, this is not how I got it, but I ended up getting 3 of these in my last pallet. Now, they tried to work, but none of them really worked with complete testing, like trying to set them up with the app. And so instead of trying to diagnose the problem, here I am breaking them down to part them out. So you can sell them for parts or repair. I didn't have to break these down, but you're not going to get a whole lot if you're telling a buyer, hey, I couldn't get it to work properly. Okay. You're going to get more money if you know by looking on eBay, checking the sold comps, maybe typing in what the item is and maybe put parts. Now I'm kind of going down the electronics road. I know you clothing sellers or shoe sellers or other sellers out there wouldn't really be doing this with clothes or shoes. But for electronics, some of these items have value where you can part them out, remove the parts, sell them individually, and actually make just as much as if the item was fully functional. So that's kind of a pro tip for you guys. But it does take a lot of extra work, and you have to learn. I didn't know a whole lot about these robot vacuums until, let's say, 3 years ago. I got a pallet. I was so excited. It was filled with robot vacuums, Roomba, Shark, all the other brands, EcoVac. There's a couple more. And guess what? Almost every one of them did not work. I mean, we're talking like a 90% fail rate on every robot. And I was like up in arms. I'm like, how am I going to make money off of this? And so before we threw everything out, which was kind of what Jenna wanted to do, I did some research and found that, well, if you break these things down, remove the wheels, remove the battery, remove the brush motors, remove the various, I think there's some sensors you can remove on some of these. And people will buy them because they're having problems with their robot, maybe, picking up dirt or maybe sensing the location properly. They're getting error messages, and they can then buy these $20, $30 parts instead of paying $200, $300, $400, $500 for a new robot vacuum. And so that's just something I'm doing with these. And now you can then say the same thing for all the other electronics out there. There's a lot of things that you can part out that people are looking for. And really, eBay is one of the only places that I know of where you can find parts for these products. So while it sucks, it really sucks for those who don't want to go that route. You're expecting one item that's fully functional, and you're not really expecting to have to break these down to make money. So that is a turnoff. The second thing that I think a lot of people would be turned off by. But what really takes the cake for me, and we're talking about Amazon's very, very generous return policy again, where they don't even look at the item before they give the buyer the refund. Buyers learn these behaviors. They port them over to us as buyers on eBay, thinking they can get away with the same thing. And I'm talking about Swapouts, where a buyer will buy something on Amazon. Let's say they have the original Roomba. They've had this robot vacuum for like the last 10, 15 years. And it's like on its last leg. They go buy the newest one, take the newest one out of the box, set it up, and then they put their old nasty one or dead one, expired model one, back in the box, send it back into Amazon, get a complete refund, and they just stole that item, essentially. And then, of course, that same buyer tries to pull that over on eBay, and they sometimes get away with it, and sometimes we They all the time get away with it, I guess, because all we can do is take up to 50% from the refund. But on Amazon, they're getting away with it like majorly, because Amazon, they're not even looking at the item. Guess what they're doing with the item that comes back? They just throw that box in a liquidation. And guess who discovers it? You and I, when we go out and buy liquidation pallets. So here we are. We're looking for the most expensive item. I mean, I ended up getting 2 Roombas. There are very expensive ones, the top of the line. One I told you about. The other one was a dead swap out. Just, it's obvious. There's no way they could have done that kind of damage within 45 days. They definitely swapped out that unit. And what's my recourse? I don't have any. See here, swap outs are rampant. Look at this. It's supposed to be an HP Smart Tank 5000. And this is kind of what you get with liquidation. But take a look. It is an HP DeskJet 2640 that they returned. So essentially what they did here was they decided that, and this because the ink was low, the printer's fine, the color ink was low. Essentially what they did here was they decided, instead of buying a color ink cartridge for this, because it already has the black ink, that they would be better off buying this printer, the 5000. I don't know the price point on that one, and get a whole new setup, and then send this back. And guess what? It's free. Didn't cost them anything. They got an upgrade, they got new ink, and all it cost them was that. And that is the swap out scam. Common on Amazon, and unfortunately it shows you that there are many dishonest thieves out there who are willing to steal to get something for free. Which is why the 40/40 model that I talk about is so important, so that I'm setting my goal to make at least 40% of the MSRP. I'm not trying to look at the comps and say, wow, I can make 70-80% of the MSRP. That's when you get let down. You plan for 40%, which is like a used condition type situation, and then know that there's a good chance you're going to be able to get 60 to 80% of MSRP on many items when they are in open box new condition. You get a very wide range of condition when you're dealing with liquidation, anywhere from non-functional, like what the heck were these people thinking when they returned it, to like brand new, like they may have opened the box. Sometimes you get brand new stuff that the box isn't opened either. So it's a lottery ticket a lot of times. And unless you're actually there to see the pallet, to see the condition, sometimes I'm able to see photos of what I'm buying, but it doesn't always tell the story. The manifest doesn't always tell the story. And you can figure that any one of these things, missing items, broken, nasty items, and swap outs, will account for probably 25% of the pallet that you're buying, which is why we say, let's get into the product as low as you can. Try to get into that product anywhere between, say, 8 and max 16%, which is my 40/40 model. And that way, if you do get these swap outs, say 25% of your pallet is just trash, well, you're still making a profit. So hopefully, this doesn't turn you guys off of buying pallets, because I'm doing it. I think pallets are a very, very good way to pick up merchandise, very, very good way to build an eBay store, and a very, very good way to eventually, once you've built it up and figure out what you're doing, a very, very good way to maybe even replace a 9-to-5 income. But I wouldn't go and do that right away. I would buy some pallets, learn the game for a while, learn what companies that you can deal with where this is minimized, the 3 things that we talked about today. And then only when you really get the hang of it and start making money part-time while you're still working your 9-to-5, would I consider maybe taking the leap, doing this full-time. But even then, I wouldn't recommend it. It's I know that there's a lot of you out there who don't care what I have to say about it. They want to do this full-time. But trust me, there's a reason why we call it flipping ain't easy. And that's because there's so many pitfalls that you have to deal with. And if you're not buying right, if you're not buying the right liquidation pallets, you could be in a world of hurt And I've always said that about 90% of the liquidation out there is pure trash. You want to avoid it, and you have to have an eye for it. That's why you need the experience. And only, once you really know what you're doing, will you really start making money. And guess what? You're probably going to lose money on your first couple pallets when you get started. So those are three things: missing items, broken, nasty items, and swap outs that you need to know about before you start dishing your money out for these pallets. But figuring that out is yet another example of how flipping ain't easy. I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your day, and we will talk to you very soon. Take care.